Before we start, can you stand up from a chair without using your hands? Not next week. Not if I really try. Right now, today, could you do it? Actually, picture it. No pushing off the armrest. No rocking 3 times, get momentum. Just, if you hesitated, even a little, you are not alone. Because here's the uncomfortable truth researchers have found. By the time most people cross 75, over 90% of them have already lost the ability to do at least one of 8 basic physical movements that used to be effortless when they were younger. Getting up off the floor, balancing on one leg, reaching behind their back. Things a 5-year-old does without thinking twice. And the scary part isn't that these abilities disappear overnight. It's that they disappear so slowly, so quietly, that most people don't even notice until the day they really need that strength, and it isn't there. Maybe that's a slippery bathroom floor. Maybe it's stepping off a curb. Maybe it's just trying to put on your shoes standing up instead of sitting down, because sitting down takes too long. Today, we're going to walk through those 8 things, the exact movements that separate the seniors who stay independent, active, and pain-free from the ones who don't. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand. Stick around, because number 6 surprises almost everyone we test, even people who consider themselves in good shape. Now here's what most people believe. Getting weaker, stiffer, and less balanced is just what happens when you get old. It's inevitable. There's nothing you can really do about it. That belief feels true because it looks true. We all watched a grandparent slow down. We assume it's the calendar's fault. But that belief, frankly, one of the most damaging myths in aging today. Because decades of research on aging bodies tells a very different story. Most of what we call getting old is actually getting sedentary wearing an old person's face. Here's why that distinction matters so much. And I brought in someone who has spent her entire career studying exactly this. Please welcome Dr. Elena Reyes, a physical therapist who has spent almost 2 decades specifically working with adults over 65 on mobility, balance, and independence. Thank you for having me, Maya. And I want to say right away, that myth you just described, I hear it in my clinic every single week. Someone will tell me, "I'm 78, what do you expect?" And I always ask them the same thing back. Do you know any 78-year-olds who can still touch their toes? Who can still get up off the floor without help? And almost always they pause, because yes, they know someone like that. Which means possible. It's just not common. And there's a huge difference between those 2 words. So it's not that decline is guaranteed. It's that most people just stop practicing the things that prevent it. Muscle and balance work almost exactly like a language. If you stop using it, you don't lose it because your brain decided you're too old for it. You lose it because you stopped speaking it. And the encouraging news, which I promise we are not going to exaggerate, is that this skill can be relearned at almost any age. I've had patients in their 80s regain movements they hadn't done in 15 years. Okay, I want to dig into the why here, because I think a lot of people assume once you lose strength or balance, that's just... It's a really common assumption, and it comes from a real phenomenon called sarcopenia, the natural age-related loss of muscle mass. After about age 30, we lose a small percentage of our muscle mass every decade if we do nothing to counteract it. And after 60, that rate speeds up. That sounds terrifying, honestly. It sounds worse than it is, because here's the part that gets left out of the scary headlines. Muscle tissue responds to demand at any age. Researchers have taken men and women in their 90s, in nursing homes, some using wheelchairs, and had them do simple resistance exercises for just a few weeks. Their leg strength improved dramatically. In some of these studies, strength gains were large enough that several participants who needed a cane to walk no longer needed one. Wait, in their 90s? in their 90s. The muscle, no, it's old. It just knows whether or not it's being asked to work. Okay, can you give us an analogy? Because I think people need something to actually picture. Sure, think of your muscles and balance system like a hiking trail through a forest. If people walk that trail every day, it stays clear, packed down, easy to walk. If nobody uses it for a year, it gets overgrown. Weeds, fallen branches, hard to find the path at all. But here's the key thing, the trail is still there. It's just hidden under neglect. The moment you start walking it again, even slowly, you begin clearing it. You don't have to build a brand new trail. You just have to start walking the old one again. That's such a relief to hear, honestly, because as I think a lot of people picture it like a broken bone. Like once it's gone, it's gone. It's the opposite of that. It's dramatically more forgiving than people think. Which is exactly why I get frustrated when I hear, well, I'm just old. That sentence talks people out of the very thing that would help them the most. So, get into it. Today we're covering the 8 physical abilities that research and clinical experience consistently show separate independent, mobile seniors from those who start losing their independence. For each one, Dr. Rise is going to walk us through what the movement is and how to safely test where you stand today. The simple step-by-step exercise that rebuilds it. The science behind why it works. How often to practice it. And the real-life benefit, the actual moment in daily life, where this ability saves you. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete, doable roadmap. Not a membership, not fancy equipment. Just 8 specific things you can start working on this week. And I'll say this now so it sticks with you through the whole video. You don't need to be perfect at all 8 today. You need to know where you're starting. That's game. Quick hello if you're new here. Welcome. On this channel, we bring on real experts, physical therapists, doctors, researchers, to break down health topics in a way that's actually useful, not just scary headlines. No fear-mongering, no miracle cures. Just clear, practical information you can use starting today. If that sounds like your kind of channel, consider subscribing. We post new expert conversations like this every week. All right, Dr. Rise, let's get into the safety piece before we jump into the movements themselves. Good call, because this matters more than people expect. A few quick things before anyone tries these movements at home. First, if you have a diagnosed heart condition, a recent surgery, severe joint pain, or any condition your doctor has specifically restricted movement for, please check with them before trying new exercises. This video is educational, not a replacement for your doctor's guidance. Second, for anything involving balance, always have a sturdy chair, wall, or countertop within arm's reach. Never test balance near stairs, on wet floors, or without support nearby. Third, and I really want to stress, there is no rush. Nobody watching this needs to master all 8 movements this week. Slow, steady, consistent practice beats a big, ambitious push that leaves you sore, discouraged, or hurt. That's such an important reminder. This isn't a competition. It's really not. The goal is simply better than where you started. Before we dive into movement number 1, quick question for everyone watching, and I'd love for you to answer this in the comments. It's a fun way to check in with yourself before we start, so scroll down and type your guess now. Okay, Dr. Rise, let's get into it. Before we go one by one, can you explain in simple terms why these 8 specific movements? Why not go for a walk every day? Great question. Walking is wonderful, but walking alone doesn't challenge everything your body needs. Think of your body like a toolbox. Walking mostly uses one tool, forward motion in a straight line on flat ground. But daily life doesn't only ask you to walk forward on flat ground. It asks you to twist to grab something from the back seat, reach up to a cabinet, catch yourself if you trip, get up off the floor if you drop something. Each of these 8 movements represents a different tool: balance, rotation, floor mobility, grip, flexibility, core stability. If even one tool goes missing from the box, that's the exact moment daily life becomes dangerous. Not because you're old, but because that specific tool wasn't being maintained. So it's less about being fit in a general sense, and more about having a complete, well-rounded set of abilities. Exactly. I've met people who can walk 3 miles a day, but can't get up off the floor without help. That's not weakness, that's just an unused tool. That actually reminds me of something. I remember my own grandmother saying she felt fine, because she still did her daily walk around the block. But looking back, she'd stopped bending down to garden years before that. That story is incredibly common, and it's a perfect example of how decline hides itself. Walking felt fine, so in her mind, her body was fine. Meanwhile, the hip hinge, the rotation, the floor mobility, those were quietly fading in the background because nothing in her daily routine was asking for them anymore. That's the trap. The body doesn't send you a warning label. It just gradually narrows what it offers you, and you adjust your life to match, often without even realizing you're doing it. So by the time someone notices, it's already been years in the making. Usually, yes. Which is exactly why testing yourself today, even informally, even just trying each of these 8 movements once, matters so much. It turns something invisible into something you can actually see and measure. All right, let's go through all 8. Number 1, take it away. This is the one you tested yourself on in the hook, and for good reason. It's the single most predictive movement we test in clinics. It's literally called the sit-to-stand test, and it's used worldwide to estimate leg strength, fall risk, and even how long someone is likely to remain independent. Sit in a sturdy chair, feet flat on the floor, arms crossed over your chest. Try to stand up fully, without using your hands or arms, then sit back down. If you can do that 5 times in under 15 seconds, you're in a strong range for your age. Start seated, in that same chair. Practice standing up using as little hand support as possible, maybe just fingertips on your knees at first. Do 8 to 10 repetitions, slow and controlled, once or twice a day. This movement trains your quadriceps and glutes, the 2 biggest muscle groups responsible for keeping you upright and preventing falls. It's essentially strength training disguised as a chair. This is the difference between getting out of your car easily and needing someone to pull you up. Between using a normal toilet and needing a raised seat. It sounds small until you realize how many times a day you sit and stand. 8 to 10 reps, once or twice daily. Most people notice a difference within 2 to 3 weeks. And here's the encouraging part. This is usually the fastest movement to improve. People feel a difference here before almost anything else on this list. Why does it improve so quickly compared to the others? Because it's using large muscle groups that respond well to even modest, consistent effort. And because most people are doing this movement dozens of times a day already, just poorly by pushing off with their hands or the armrest. When you simply change how you're already standing up, rather than adding a brand activity to your day, the improvement compounds fast. It's one of the easiest wins on this whole list, and honestly, I like to start new patients here, specifically because the quick progress builds their confidence for the harder movements ahead. Okay, that's genuinely motivating. All right, what's number 2? This one tests something a little different, not strength, but your balance system, which involves your inner ear, your vision, and the nerves in your feet, all talking to each other. Stand to a counter for safety. Lift one foot slightly off the ground and see how long you can hold it before needing to touch down or grab the counter. Under 5 seconds is a warning sign. Over 20 seconds for each leg is a great range, someone over 70. Same position, near a counter, one hand hovering nearby, not gripping. Lift a few inches, hold long as you can, with good form. Switch. As you improve, try doing it with just fingertip support, then eventually no support at all. Balance is like a muscle for your nervous system. The less you challenge it, the lazier those balance signals become. Practicing this daily forces your brain to keep those signals sharp, literally rewiring the connection between your feet, your inner ear, and your brain. This is the skill that prevents the fall that starts with a small stumble, a rug edge, an uneven sidewalk. People with strong single-leg balance catch themselves. People who've lost it don't. Just 20 to 30 seconds per leg once a day is enough to see steady improvement. Now here's something even more important that a lot of people don't realize. Falls aren't usually caused by weak legs alone. They're caused by weak legs plus poor balance plus a slow reaction. This one movement trains a piece nothing else on this list touches. That's right. It's often the missing piece. Okay, this is the one I'm personally nervous about. You're not alone. This is actually one of the most telling tests we use. There was research following adults over 50 that found the ability to get up off the floor without using hands, knees, or furniture was strongly linked to how many years they were expected to live in good health. Wait, really? Getting off the floor predicts that much? It's not magic, it's a proxy. To get off the floor smoothly, you need leg strength, core strength, balance, flexibility, and coordination all working together at once. It's basically a whole body report card in one movement. Only attempt this on carpet or a mat, with a sturdy chair nearby for support if needed. Lower yourself to sitting on the floor, then try to stand back up using as few points of contact, hands, knees, as possible. Start with support. Sit next to a sturdy chair. Lower down using the chair for support, then push through your legs to come back up, using the chair as needed. Over time, reduce how much you lean on it. Practicing getting to a half-kneeling position and standing from there is a great stepping stone. This trains what's called transitional strength, your ability to move between positions, not just hold one position. It's one of the last skills to develop in toddlers learning to walk, and ironically, one of the first to disappear in adults who stop practicing it. This isn't hypothetical. This is literally the skill that determines whether a small trip or a dropped item turns into "I got right back up" or "I was stuck on the floor for 20 minutes." That single difference has enormous impact on confidence and safety. Practice this slowly, 3 to 5 times, twice a week, always with support nearby until you feel confident. That completely reframes it for me. It's not about being able to do a party trick. It's about what happens after an actual fall. Exactly. The floor isn't the danger. Being stuck on the floor is the danger. I imagine that's an emotional thing too, not just physical, being stuck on the floor, waiting for help. It absolutely is, and I don't think we talk about that enough. I've had patients describe it to me, the fear, the embarrassment, sometimes the panic of not being able to reach a phone. That emotional toll often lingers even after the physical injury heals. People become afraid to garden, afraid to play on the floor with a grandchild, afraid to reach for something under the bed, because some part of them isn't sure they could get back up. Rebuilding this one movement doesn't just protect the body. It gives people back a kind of quiet confidence they didn't realize they'd lost. This one's simpler to explain but incredibly common to lose. The ability to fully raise both arms straight overhead. Stand tall and raise both arms straight up alongside your ears without arching your lower back to compensate. Can your arms reach fully vertical? Stand or sit tall. Slowly raise both arms overhead, pause at the top, then lower with control. If that's difficult, use a light broomstick held with both hands to guide the movement evenly, but this trains shoulder mobility and the muscles around your shoulder blades, which tend to tighten from years of sitting, driving, and looking down at phones or books. It also indirectly improves posture, because tight shoulders often pull the upper back into a rounded position. This is the difference between reaching that top shelf yourself and needing help. Between putting on a jacket or a shirt smoothly and struggling with it every single morning. 10 slow repetitions, most days of the week. This feels like the kind of thing you don't notice slipping away until suddenly you can't get the suitcase down from the closet. That's a perfect example, actually. And it happens gradually enough that people just adjust their life around it instead of addressing it. They stop using the top shelf instead of restoring the reach. Number 5 is rotation, your ability to twist your spine, which matters far more than people expect. Sit tall in a chair, arms crossed over your chest. Twist your upper body to look behind you, first one side, then the other. Notice how far you can comfortably rotate. Same seated position. Slowly rotate to one side, hold for 2 seconds, return to center, then rotate to the other side. Keep your hips facing forward. The movement should come from your mid and upper back. Spinal rotation tends to stiffen faster than almost any other movement because most daily activities, sitting, walking, driving, happen in a straight, forward-facing plane. Without deliberate practice, that rotational range quietly shrinks year after year. This is what lets you check your blind spot while driving without turning your whole body awkwardly. It's what lets you reach into the back seat or turn to grab something off a side table without losing your balance. 8 to 10 rotations per side, daily. I want to pause here because I think this is the one people underestimate the most. Checking a blind spot doesn't sound like a fitness thing, but it absolutely is one. And here's a sobering fact. Limited neck and torso rotation is linked to higher rates of driving accidents in older adults, simply because they physically can't check what's beside or behind them as easily. This tiny, boring exercise has real safety implications. All right, this is the one you said surprises almost everyone. It does, and it's not really about touching your toes for the sake of it. It's about testing your hip hinge, your ability to bend forward from your hips, not your lower back. Standing, feet hip-width apart, slowly bend forward, reaching toward your toes, letting your knees bend slightly if needed. Notice where the movement stops and whether it feels like it's coming from your hips or straining your lower back. Sit in a sturdy chair. With feet flat, slowly hinge forward from your hips, reaching toward your shins or ankles, keeping your back relatively straight rather than rounding it. Hold for a few seconds, then sit back up. This targets your hamstrings and lower back, two areas that tighten dramatically with prolonged sitting. Tight hamstrings pull on the pelvis, which is one of the most common hidden causes of chronic lower back pain in older adults. This is what lets you tie your shoes, pick something up off the floor, or put on socks without the awkward, painful struggle so many people quietly accept as just part of aging. Hold each stretch for 20 to 30 seconds, repeat 2 to 3 times, ideally daily. Why do you think this one surprises people so much? Because they associate flexibility with young gymnasts, not with basic daily function. But I promise you, the person who struggles to put on their own socks in the morning almost always has lost this exact movement. It's not glamorous, but it's one of the most freeing to regain. Now here's one people never expect. Grip strength. Grip. Like your hands? Exactly, and it turns out to be one of the strongest overall predictors researchers have found for long-term health and even survival in older adults. It's remarkable, actually. Stronger grip strength has been linked in numerous studies to better outcomes for heart health, muscle mass, and independence overall. That seems almost unrelated to the rest of the body. Why would that be true? Because grip strength is a window into your overall muscle health. If your whole body strength is declining, your grip almost always declines right along with it, often before you notice weakness anywhere else. It's like a canary in the coal mine for muscle loss. A simple way at home: squeeze a rolled-up towel or a soft stress ball as hard as you can and see how it feels compared to a year ago. For a more precise measure, inexpensive hand grip dynamometers are available online. Squeeze a stress ball or soft towel firmly for 5 seconds, release, repeat for 10 to 15 reps per hand. Carrying grocery bags, gardening, and opening jars are all natural grip strengthening activities too. Your forearm muscles respond to resistance training just like any other muscle. Repeated squeezing builds real strength over just a few weeks. This is what lets you open a jar, carry your own grocery bags, hold a grandchild's hand firmly, or catch yourself on a railing if you stumble. 10-15 squeezes per hand, most days of the week. I did not expect hand strength to be linked to something as big as long-term health outcomes. Neither do most people, which is exactly why it's on this list. It's an easy one to ignore and an easy one to fix. Is there a reason grip specifically shows up as such a strong signal, rather than, say, arm strength or leg strength? Part of it is practical. Grip is simply easy to measure precisely with a handheld device, so researchers have collected huge amounts of consistent data on it over the decades across many different populations. But part of it is genuinely physiological. Your hands contain a dense network of small muscles and nerves, and that network tends to reflect the health of your nervous system and muscular system as a whole. When overall strength starts to decline, the hands often show it early, almost like a preview of what's happening elsewhere in the body. That's why clinicians love it as a quick screening tool. It's fast, it's cheap, and it tells you a surprising amount. And finally, number 8, walking heel to toe in a straight line, like a sobriety test. That's the one where people wobble hilariously. Right, and there's a reason it's used as a real clinical test. It isolates dynamic balance, which is different from the single leg balance we covered earlier. Standing still on one leg tests static balance. Walking heel to toe tests your balance while moving, which is far closer to real life. With a wall or counter nearby, walk in a straight line, placing the heel of one foot directly in front of the toes of the other for about 10 steps. Practice the same pattern slowly near a wall for support. As balance improves, try it with arms crossed, then eventually with your eyes closed for a few steps, only once you feel very confident, and always with support close by. This challenges your balance system under motion, forcing your brain to make constant micro-adjustments, exactly the skill you rely on when walking on uneven sidewalks, grass, or gravel. This is what prevents the stumble on uneven ground from turning into a fall. It's the difference between confidently walking on a hiking trail, a curb, or a wet floor, and avoiding those situations out of fear. 10 steps, once or twice daily. All right, that's all 8. Genuinely, some of these surprised me. I was expecting more typical gym exercises. That's the point, though. None of these require a gym. They require about 15 to 20 minutes a day, spread across your normal routine. But here's something even more important than any single movement on this list, and I want to make sure everyone catches this. Which one of these is most important? Honestly, none of them individually. The real danger isn't being weak in one area. It's when 2 or 3 of these quietly disappear at the same time, without you noticing, because you adjusted your life around each one separately. That's when a small stumble turns into a serious fall, and a serious fall turns into a hospital stay that dramatically changes someone's independence. So this isn't really about passing 8 individual tests. It's about closing the gaps before life forces you to notice them. Okay, let's zoom out. We covered a lot. Let's recap all 8 quickly. Absolutely. 1. Standing up from a chair without your hands, which builds the leg strength behind almost every daily movement. 2. Single leg balance, which sharpens the communication between your brain, inner ear, and feet. 3. Getting up off the floor, the closest thing we have to a full body report card. 4. The overhead reach, which restores shoulder mobility lost to years of sitting. 5. The seated torso twist, protecting something as simple and as important as checking your blind spot. 6. The toe touch, which quietly transforms getting dressed from a struggle into something effortless. 7. Grip strength, the surprising early warning sign for whole body health. And 8. The heel-to-toe walk, training your balance for the real, uneven, moving world you actually live in. But when you put it all together like that, it really does feel like a complete picture. Not 8 random exercises, but 8 different pieces of the same puzzle. That's the goal. And here's the transformation I want people to picture. It's not about becoming an athlete at 75. It's about being the person who gets up off the floor by themselves after tripping in the garden. The person who reaches the top shelf without asking for help. The person who stays independent in their own home for years longer than they otherwise would have. That's the real prize here. And before we wrap up, if someone's watching this and feeling a little overwhelmed by 8 new things to work on, what would you tell them? I'd tell them, don't try to do all 8 perfectly starting tomorrow. Pick the 2 that felt hardest when you tested yourself, and just work on those for 2 weeks. Then another. Consistency beats intensity every single time, especially at this stage of life. And please be patient with yourself. Muscle and balance improvements in older adults are absolutely real and well documented, but they build gradually over weeks, not days. Expecting a dramatic change in 3 days is the fastest way to get discouraged and quit. What's the biggest mistake you see people make? Doing too much too fast out of frustration and ending up sore, discouraged, or even injured, which then makes them quit entirely. Slow and steady truly wins here. The second biggest mistake is comparing yourself to who you were at 40, instead of just comparing yourself to who you were last month. Progress from last month is the only comparison that matters. That's such a good note to end the practical section on. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this, Dr. Reyes. Thank you for having me, and to everyone watching, genuinely, you have far more control over this than you've been led to believe. All right, before you go, remember that question from earlier? Which of these 8 did you guess would be hardest? Scroll back down to the comments and let us know if your guess was right, or if something totally different surprised you. I want to see how many people picked getting off the floor. I have a feeling that one's gonna win. If this video helped you see your own body a little differently, do us a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this conversation reach more people who need to hear it, especially the ones who think decline is just inevitable. And if you know a parent, grandparent, or honestly even yourself needs this reminder, share this video with them. Sometimes the most caring thing you can do is send someone a 2-second nudge like this. Make sure you're subscribed, because we're bringing Dr. Reyes back for a follow-up where we go deeper into the exact weekly routine that combines all 8 of these movements into one simple 15-minute plan you can do at home. And if you're wondering where to start today, right now, the next video on your screen breaks down the single most common fall risk mistake seniors make at home and how a 5-minute fix can prevent it entirely. Go ahead and click that next. I'll see you there.